Hi there. It is March 15th, 2025. I am Kona with Lighthouse News and Notes. I am here today with Donna D'Angelo in the Institute of Christ Consciousness. We are exploring human divine connections, and today is a very special topic about the 12 women who loved Jesus. This is a very, very important topic because we don't know in our historical records very much about the 12 women disciples who followed Jesus, but they had a very significant role at the time that he was alive. He trained them. Donna's going to give us more information about that. But even more importantly, for those of you who live in the spirit and you understand these spiritual connections with celestials, the women are present with us. They have a message for us today. They want to help us with the living gospel of Jesus today. So this is profound for our lives today. And without much further ado, Donna's going to give you all of that information. So welcome, Donna.
Thank you, Kona. I'm very happy to be here with all of you today. So in today's format, I have a very brief PowerPoint presentation, and then I'd like to lead us in a brief meditation to experience the fabric, if you will, of what the women created here on the planet when they were with Jesus in physical form. And they had a ministry of love, of service, of healing that they uh, shared from Jesus's teachings with the people around them, the women, the children, the infirm, the elderly. Jesus did something quite remarkable in commissioning these 12 women to be his female apostles. And today we'll be not only exploring some of that, but looking at more of the deeper implications for our modern day culture. So with that being said, let's go to our PowerPoint presentation, and we'll do that for a few minutes.
All right, Donna, it's up. Go ahead.
Okay, can you make that a little bit bigger?
Let's see, if you have to pin me to in order for you to see it in full screen.
Ah, and I've always had problems with pinning you.
Should be top right-hand corner. And this is for any of our viewers, if you are just now joining us. If you pin my person in the top right-hand corner.
Yeah, I don't see that in mine, unfortunately. All right, well, I'll do my best to read it off.
Sure, and I'll do my best to help you as we go along if necessary. Okay.
Great. All right. Well, let's go to the first slide.
Okay, first slide is up.
So this is a look into the women's ministry and the relevance to our modern day planetary rehabilitation. Okay, next one. Who are the women who love Jesus? They are the 12 women who followed Jesus during his public ministry and became his female apostles of equal status to his male apostles. The women learned from Jesus about their relationship to the Holy Universe Mother Spirit, who is the womb of consciousness. As women are the containers of life, Jesus helped them understand their unique role on the planet and how the Divine Mother functions in human life. Jesus evoked a soul response in each woman to open her to her true purpose for her human incarnation. He taught them how to communicate soul to soul, to evolve in a similar response in ministering to others. And he taught them about his living gospel, which is simply faith in the creator of all and loving service to the family of humanity. These are very important points to consider because they speak to the nature of our relationship to the universe. And the universe is created from two divine parents, our Divine Mother and our Divine Father. The Divine Mother is the womb of consciousness in which we all live. And she is a wonderful personality. And when Jesus taught the women about the universe, Mother Spirit, he was also helping the women understand that they had a unique role to play as mothers on the planet because the universe mother is the mother of all life for our creation. He also validated the women for their right to be who they truly are, and he evoked a very strong response in them to bring them out of their cultural conditioning so that they could develop their true soul purpose for their human lives. Okay, let's go to the next slide. The women minister to others. From Jesus, the women replicated relating to others via soul communication, restoring each person's divine dignity that opened their inner door of perception to one's soul purpose given by our Creator. The women operated in their relationship to the Holy Mother Spirit. The Mother creates the divine environment of peace, cooperation, collaboration, balance, flowing her divine love, beauty, and grace to the planet to become a living reality. The women comprehended the divine nature of Jesus in a way that the male apostles could not, and they they could sense his soul essence through their natural intuition. The women initiated the social foundation of what later developed into the Christian religion by providing the environment of spiritual ministry and healing they conducted based upon the pattern of the Divine Mother's role on the planet. So there's a lot of significance in these 4 points that I'm making today. And Kona, if you could just keep this slide up for a few more moments, that would be helpful. So one of the things that we are learning about in our spiritual development on the planet is to listen for the innate essence of an individual. Everyone has an evolving soul, that higher part of their consciousness, but most people don't have the ability to recognize the soul value or purpose of another person. But Jesus did. And in his ministry to our brothers and sisters in the ancient days, he was able to kind of see inside a person, go beyond the limitations of human thinking and the traumatic feelings that they had around them, and to strike that chord within that person that resonated so deeply in each person that they recognized something of great value within them. This is a form of communication we might call soul-to-soul communication. And it is a way in which we interact with others that is not very well developed on the planet yet, because so much of our communications is still what you might call intellectual processing. We want to share what we think and what we know in relationship to what another person thinks and what they know. And sometimes it can become very fruitful to have those kinds of conversations, but sometimes they become antagonistic and you get into kind of conflict. And then there's some emotional barriers that come up, and you can't have a really fruitful and productive, soulful level of dialogue. So this is something that is very important for us to resurrect on the planet. And the women are back here on the planet in a spiritual form to help us learn that as well. And Kona, can you just go back to the slide again for a moment?
I will in just a minute, but you have given this audience so much information. We need to unpack a few things, Donna. Everything is very solid in your spirit, soul, body, and mind, but I can see the looks and I can see the wheels turning. And so, real briefly, let's talk about why we don't have information about these women and how you got it, because this audience may understand that a little bit, but your broader audience is not going to know how you got this information. Can you just give us a little bit of background?
I first had contact with the women in December of 1999 when I was meeting with 2 ladies and we were expressing our interest in doing different kinds of healing work. We were all very dedicated to helping our brothers and sisters heal at all different levels. In my mind's eye, as we were discussing, I saw an image of 12 women in beautiful pastel shades, all in ancient garb. And as I saw them, my intuition told me that these were the 12 women that Jesus commissioned as his female apostles. And as I told my friends what I was seeing, an image of Jesus appeared behind the women in this resplendent energy of glory and magnificence. And he held his hands outstretched, and the women were lined up in between his hands, and they were shining their love and encouragement down on us. And it was so palpable. The spiritual energy was so strong that they could feel it too. And we all were hugging and kind of like crying because it was such a joyful experience. Well, nothing really ever came of that little group that we developed for various reasons, but they came back to me in November of 2010, and they asked me to start a healing group, in which I did. And they also gave me information about who they were, insofar as they were able to understand Jesus in a way that the male apostles could not. They felt his divinity, they felt his humanity, they understood more of what his mission was here on the planet than the male apostles, who were still very much beholden to the idea of a political deliverer or Messiah. And the women grasp it more from the spiritual perspective of being the redeemer for humanity at a spiritual level. And then they also told me that they laid the social fabric for what later developed into the Christian religion, because their ministry, their involvement with Jesus in the encampment that followed Jesus around was such a strong resonance of love and empathy and true understanding of the frailties of the human nature, that they were very successful in their healing ministry that Jesus taught them, that is what actually served as a spiritual magnet to draw more people to adhere, become more interested in Jesus' teachings, which the male apostles did through their preaching. So we, as a small group, met for about 7 years, working with the women in meditation, and they told us different things about healing. And then it was roughly around 2017 when I got the message that we had gotten as far as they wanted to teach us. But I could sense that something still was yet to come. And then it was in December of, I think it was, oh gosh, now I'm getting my dates mixed up. I think it was December of 18, when they came back and said, we want you to write our story. It's time to bring our story, which was hidden from history, the role they played in the development of Christianity was so significant because it didn't have to do with theology. It had to do with religious experience, deep spiritual experience with Jesus, deep communication with Jesus, who was there to help each person bring out the best, you might say, the best of that human nature, the best of that soul purpose. So I started in March of 19, receiving each woman's stories a little bit at a time. And then we finished about a year later. And then unfortunately, we experienced COVID and everything kind of stopped. But it wasn't until September of 2020 that they said, okay, it's time to get the book out. And I contacted a friend who's also a publisher of my other books, and he agreed to help me develop it to a book. And so now it is in book form, The Women Who Love Jesus, and it is the collective account of the women and what they intend to develop here on the planet, as well as a personal account of each of the women and how Jesus brought them out of their cultural conditioning and evoked a soul response in them, to the degree that they were so magnetized by the spirit within them that they decided to leave their lives, the lives that they were leading, and completely devote themselves to Jesus' ministry. And so this is something that is now in the process of being reformulated in a modern day setting. And one of the most important things for us to do is to learn how to make that deep commitment to getting to know a brother or sister at a soul level. And this is very difficult for us because there are many impediments placed upon the human mind and the ego mind, if I may use that word, which I really don't like, is always saying, I'm going to share what I know, and what I know is right. Now, I'm taking that to an extreme, of course, but that's what happens a lot of time in human communication. We share what we think we know instead of who we are at a very deep level. And when we do that, and I've practiced this for many years now, it's been a great gift to me to understand how to use this quality of communication, because it really restores so much more trust in our fellow humanity, in our brothers and sisters, and a deeper interest in getting to know them, not at a superficial level, but at a really deep soul level. And so this is the significance of what is now necessary to be returned to the planet to teach us this very powerful form of communication. Now, I'm not going to say it's easy because it takes one out of, like I said, the intellectual thinking mind into what you might call the heart space or the soul space, where there's a completely different spiritual dynamic operating. And this is what the women want to teach us today. And in the meditation, I'd like to lead us all into a space where you can feel the fabric of what they did, that spiritual foundation of the soul to soul communication, which is so important to bring back to this planet now. Because the living gospel of Jesus is very simple. It's just faith in our Creator in whatever way you wish to envision the Creator, and loving service to humanity. If this planet was truly operating in this fully, we would have peace on earth. There would be no more wars. There would be no more economic disparity. We would be in a completely different civilization. And this is where we are headed, but we are certainly not there yet. And we have a long way to go, because this soulful level of communication and the living gospel of Jesus is still a growing spiritual dynamic on the planet. So I hope that provides more context for what this is all about.
It does. I think that it's going to really help our viewers and future viewers understand. One, you've had a connection with these women for a very long period of time. And in this process, they've not only taught you how to have this soulful connection that Jesus taught them, you've been able to develop that soulful connection with them to the point where you can recognize each personality on the other side of the veil based on their spiritual imprint and their personality that you can recognize, because we know each of us is different. We all have a different personality and an imprint, and you have been able to learn this process, and now you can recognize these women each individually. And that's what you're saying, is that Jesus taught them how to do this, how to communicate and recognize each other at a soulful level. And that's what they want to bring to us as well. So this is a really important part of the presentation. And I know we have a question in the audience. I don't know if it's quite time to take questions yet. Do you want to take a question right now?
Let's take a question. Sure.
Sure. Okay, Bob, you have your hand up if you'd like to unmute, please.
Yes, I just want to make a comment that according to current historical knowledge, the very early church, there were two different camps. There was a Gnostic camp, and there was the kind of male apostles camp. And male apostles camp kind of evolved into the organization of the church we have today, in a sense. But the Gnostic camp was more of a personal spiritual development and growth on the individual's part. And that was definitely suppressed by the early church because they wanted to have dominion and control over people through the clergy. But the very early church had a Gnostic section to it that believed in the individual growth and development. I just want to make that point that what the women were teaching caught on with quite a few people, but then it was suppressed.
That's true. And that is why their story is coming back now, because of the cultural recognition that God also has a feminine component to it. And the women were taught by Jesus about the Holy Mother Spirit, who is the womb of consciousness, who provides that environment for humanity to live and grow in a state of grace and beauty, harmony, cooperation, and balance. And because of the way Christianity evolved, that didn't recognize this, if you use the term Gnostic approach, that this is now what needs to be resurrected. And the women are here to help us do that. And we can make contact with them. And to the point that Kona made, when I was receiving the stories of each woman, I felt her personality. I could feel her love for Jesus and what Jesus did in them. It was a magnificent experience to feel, to actually sense through my body what was happening for them at a spiritual perspective. And this is a quality of what you might call consciousness development that still needs to be very fully um, pervasive in through our whole planetary system of consciousness. And that is why the women are here with this important story now, to bring this back, to resurrect the historical record, and to help us actually achieve what the living gospel of Jesus was here to teach us, not through all of the different threads of dogma, but to get down to the most simple, basic teachings of Jesus, which was just to have faith in our Creator, just love one another, accept each person for who he and she is for their soul value. And this is something that we're having a difficult time in doing right now.
Well, thank you, Bob, for that comment, and Donna for your further explanation. So, with this greater background, I'd like to go back to the PowerPoint, to the first slide that you shared, to see if there's anything on there that needs to be highlighted in context of the conversation that we've had, to see if there's any other questions. And then we'll move to the next slide and do the same, and then continue on with your presentation. Is that okay with you, Donna?
That's good. Thank you for that
Sure.
facilitation. I tend to get ahead of myself because I'm so full of this information and
Yes,
I
you're so in depth with all of this, but having listened to the feedback of the viewers, they want a little bit more explanation from you. So if I just go, wait a minute, Donna, wait a minute, Donna, let's have a conversation. I might stop you in the middle of something that you're saying so we can get that further explanation from you, okay? All right.
absolutely.
So here's the PowerPoint that you were explaining before. The 12 women who followed Jesus during his public ministry and became his female apostles. You've told us about that, and they learned from Jesus about the relationship to the Holy Universe Mother Spirit. We don't hear a lot about that in our historical records. It's wonderful to have that new information, and that Jesus evoked a soul response in each woman to open her true purpose for her human incarnation. And they're wanting to help us learn that as well with the living gospel of Jesus. And then he also taught them about the faith in the creator of all and loving service to the family of humanity. Does anyone in our Zoom room have questions about this part of the presentation? I don't see any, so we're going to go on to the next slide.
Let me just make another
Sure.
comment about Holy Mother Spirit. There were teachings about the divine feminine on the planet during the time of Jesus. A lot of them were through a lot of the pagan religions, based on a very deep planetary record that we'll be talking about in another webcast. But a lot of that energy or concepts about the Divine Mother did come through in Christianity through the the personality of the Mother Mary, Jesus' mother, because the universe Mother Spirit is our womb. We live in her. She is our mother. And so that concept was a little bit too advanced 2,000 years ago for humanity to recognize. So that concept of the universe mother that Jesus taught the women was more or less relegated into the personality veneration of Jesus' mother Mary. So that remnant is still there in Christian thought, and some religions have more of a relationship with the Mother Mary than in other denominations. But it's something that is very important to remember, that we have a universe mother and father, and the synergy of our divine parents forms the construct for our humanity. And I have talked about this in other webcasts, but people can always go back and look at some of the things we've done over the years, or read the information on the website. And then the other point that I wish to make is that when Jesus was able to evoke the soul response in the women, he was not only doing that for them, but he was teaching them how to radiate that loving essence of safety and security, because so many people feel trepidatious about opening up themselves to who they truly are, to share their dreams, their heartaches. Jesus could cut through all of that. And in the Urantia book, they talk about how Jesus really said very little because he listened to what people were saying. And as he listened, he was ministering. He was sharing his love. He was sharing his compassion and empathy, so that was able to bring a person out of the shell of their own conditioned thinking and the way that they've been hurt or traumatized by the social environment around them, to bring them back to who they truly are at the soul level. So I want to just emphasize those points. So we can go on to the next
Sure.
one.
Thank you for that.
John had a question.
He thank you for that. Yes. Longer explanation, especially the connection to Mary and where Mary fits in and how that came about. So John, if you want to unmute yourself, go ahead.
Since you brought up the the subject of the Mother Spirit, our Mother Spirit, you said something to me once about Mother Spirit not moving from Salvington. She is fixed. Does that have some bearing on our relationship with the Mother and with the women, the Apostle, the 12 women? Did that stability of the Mother Spirit come into play in some ways, or does it?
If you consider that she is the womb of consciousness, and it is her consciousness which is balanced and equal and peaceful and loving, it is a place of security and balance in our outer environment, in our consciousness field. There is another point of stabilization within us, and that is from the Divine Father, who validates us for the right to be. And that is one of the things that Jesus also evoked in each woman. He was able to appreciate each woman for who she was, and that also provided a point of stabilization. So you have your field environment, which is your mother, holding you in that place of safety and security. It's basically the same analogy of a little tiny soul living in, or a little tiny embryo living in the womb of his or her mother. It's the same thing. That is a divine pattern, and that is the pattern for the development of the human system of consciousness. The human mother's womb, ideally, is a safe place. It's a place of nurturing. It's a place of warmth and comfort. And we all need that in order to grow. And so when we don't get that, then we become insecure. And so the mother in her stabilization as that womb of consciousness provides that field environment around us to have that stability. Now, unfortunately, there are other influences in our field of consciousness that are not healthy, but we can, by meditating on the mother, divine mother, expand out of the cacophony in our fields and feel her presence expanding us into her safety and security. So I hope that is helpful. That answers your question somewhat.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, John, for that question. And thank you, Donna, for the expanded explanation. If there aren't any other questions at this point, we'll look again at the second slide that you had. It's the women minister to others and how they used this soul to soul connection to relate to each other and restoring each person's divine dignity you have here in the slide. And that opened the inner door of perception to their soul purpose. Do you want to say any more about this slide, given the background information that you've given?
Give me a minute to get a kind of like a download here. One of the things I hear from the people I work with energetically, personally, is they have a question of what is my soul purpose? And it's not a cut and dry thing. It's not really something that you do. It is something you become, and it's how you live your life, living with integrity, with authenticity, with a sense of honoring your own life, your own humanity, honoring your value, the value and the integrity of other people. And this is something that, as again, I said, is not very well established yet on the planet as a permanent, pervasive planetary mindset. The soul value of each person, some people don't even know that they have soul value. They feel insecure or unworthy. And that is not the nature that what Jesus taught. He validated each person for their right to be who they are at the soul level. So this is something that the universe mother spirit provides, to provide, to hold a person in that loving environment. So all of that cacophony of the outer world can start shedding away and a person begin to feel secure in who he and she is. And then, of course, as Jesus went on through his ministry, in the development of their form of ministering, ministering the mother spirit to people, that attracted more people because there was so much joy and life and vitality, and they were highly motivated, especially after Pentecost, when the spirit of truth was imbued into human mind, to give people that extra motivation to go out there and share the good news with our brothers and sisters during that ancient period.
Thank you so much, Donna, for that further explanation and giving more in-depth to the slide. I thank you for that very much. So we'll look at the next slide. And we haven't looked at this one yet, so here we go. This is the relevance of the women's ministry to modern day. And you
Yes.
started to touch on that a little bit. Would you
Right.
like me to read it?
Yes. And let me make a point after each bullet point, and then we can go into another discussion.
Very good. The relevance of the women's ministry to modern day encourages us to live Jesus' gospel every day by demonstrating love, respect, and acceptance to our brothers and sisters who need to experience who they are as children of a loving Creator.
If a person is not able to open up to their true potential and purpose due to various factors, belief systems, emotional trauma, and they cannot get the divine love they need directly from their divine source, our Creator, then it is up to us as spiritually motivated individuals to do our best to demonstrate love to them and to provide that safe environment through soulful communication to help them feel loved, appreciated, and valued. And this is something that gives us more experience, and we are becoming more self-responsible and more self-reliant in the authenticity of who we are as having soul value on the planet. And so as we share this level of communication with others, as we demonstrate this out in the world, it is also actually emitting a resonance field of love, of safety and security for another person to experience. And especially now when people are so emotionally unhinged because of all the change energy on the planet, and because of all the different belief systems, especially in religion out there, it is very important for us to take the responsibility to live in this way, because we are helping the spiritual transformation. We are taking the leadership of the spiritual helm of the planet, and making this foundation of the living gospel of Jesus a true reality on this world. And this is something that has never happened before.
Thank you for that. And yes, it's this connection and this aspect of the living gospel of Jesus that impacted my decision even to follow him before meeting you a long time ago. It's this soul to soul connection and the ability to live into that gospel, to treat others with dignity and respect, that so attracted me to the ministry of Jesus. So let's look at the next part of the PowerPoint, and I'll read this. Jesus' living gospel provides the foundation of a spiritual social fabric where people are dedicated to helping others, moving focus from egoistic self-service to selflessness through soulful communication. And you've touched on this a little bit, but you might have a little bit more to say. So go ahead.
The social foundation of our planet is really based on spiritual principles. And we cannot evolve into a higher planetary culture where there is peace on earth, equality, justice, and fairness without the spiritual foundation becoming a living fabric that is woven to all of the social institutions of the planet. There is a value, a reason why this is very important, because it speaks to the equality of each person in the eyes of our Creator, and the fact that our world was created to be a world of justice and fairness and equality. That is the divine plan for every evolving world. And unfortunately, we live on a planet where there have been heavy influences imposed upon human mind to take us away from our divine inheritance. But if everyone was living according to the gospel of Jesus, having faith in our Creator who validates you to be who you are in a higher way, and then being loving and kind and doing good works for humanity, then what a change we would have on this world. Every social institution would be reformed. Now, it wouldn't happen overnight, of course, because we have to do the inner work. We have to get out of the ego, self-centered thinking and into that form of my relevance, or my importance to who I am is just as important to who you are. And I have more of an interest in getting to know you as a person because I already know who I am. And I want to help another person become more of who they are created to be. So it's just a different level of approaching life that takes you out of, trying to always put yourself in the center of everything, and bringing you into a different playing field of equality. And it's a beautiful place when you're in that, because you don't have so much ego, selfish need to gratify who you are, because you're starting to turn your attention to loving another person. And in that exchange, something magical happens and you feel more motivated and even more validated in your own self. And that's the nature of divine love. And that is the nature of our Creator, to share oneself unselfishly so that you can all grow and together in that bond of love that grows spiritual kinship, which is the foundation of Jesus' gospel.
And then you go into the PowerPoint, and you have touched on this already, that it provides the social structure promoting group harmony, cooperation, balance, and equality. Their dynamics of ministry are available to us to replicate in our culture. And as you said, this is exactly what we need in order to have a better foundation in our institutions on the planet, in our families.
If everyone was living according to these principles, which are very simple, divine love is simple, it would change everything so quickly that we would even recognize this planet. And I cannot oversimplify the simplicity of this message, because we tend as humans to overcomplexify things. And we drive ourselves nuts. And we have this hamster wheel of monkey mind, always trying to figure out, what do we do? What do we do? If we were in that state of beingness, of who we truly are, then there is a spiritual dynamism that is evoked from the heart and soul that resonates to another person and brings that person into a place of feeling safe and secure, not only within your relationship with that individual, but within the relationship they have with themselves, so they can begin to feel the Creator's presence in them, which is loving and transformational. And then if everyone was living like that, then we would be more collaborative with one another instead of trying to jockey for position, who's going to be the top dog in a social institution. There's a beautiful harmony and synergy, and it's very balanced. And you can get a lot done better when you operate in that dynamic. And that is the dynamic of the Mother Spirit. And that's why it was so important for Jesus to teach the women about the Mother Spirit. And it is something that the men on this planet need to learn and develop in their social structures as well.
Well, you bring up a good point. Do we know why it was underdeveloped with the male apostles? Have they given you any kind of information? Because there seems to be, yes, it was there with the women, it was rejected by the men. Give us just a very brief snippet of why that might not have happened, because I'm sure our men are going, but wait, I want this too, and why am I missing out, and why am I having to relearn it now?
There was a model of hierarchical authoritarian over control that was very deeply embedded in men and how they moved within their social setting. Women were relegated to second-class citizens, or even as possessions of men at that time. And we still have remnants of this in our culture at this time. But that was basically the dynamic that these men operated in. And it was a very profound exercise that Jesus demonstrated to his male apostles when he commissioned these 12 women, equal to the men apostles, with the ability to preach and teach and heal and minister. They were shocked. They did not appreciate what he was doing. They appreciated it theoretically, intellectually, but unfortunately, they were not able to really fully engage with Jesus' pronouncement that women were equal and give them equal status in what later evolved into the Christian church. The hierarchical authoritarian model was still very, very rife through the lineage of how men function on the planet. And we're still outworking that in our present day right now.
And that goes back to probably the longer subject of the rebellion, which we've talked about before, and how that impacted the planet. So we won't go into that right now, because that's a very long conversation. So I'm going to take us back to the PowerPoint. The next point that you make here is that this provides the continuum from the ancient past to the present, that we may carry on their legacy, expanding the fertile environment for people to experience Jesus' living gospel through their direct connection to him via the Spirit of truth, motivating them to live it with purpose and dedication. If you just want to say a few things about that, and then I know you have another slide here we haven't covered yet in your meditation.
Well, this is the point we'll cover in the meditation. It's one thing to learn about these concepts, but to actually have a meditation experience with the women at a profound level and to feel their social foundation enter into your energy field and speak into your heart is a completely different experience. And that is one of the things at the ICC that we teach and help people open to is this energetic endowment of receiving the spiritual dynamics that are part of our human system of consciousness, that are fundamental to our spiritual growth. It is an experience, it's a sensing ability that is very, very ready to be birthed within our soul. There's tremendous spiritual pressure and light infusions coming in from the higher dimensions to help us open to this part of ourselves that's been blocked for many years because of the deviation that we experienced on this planet of the divine plan. So rather than talk about it, we can maybe have a brief discussion about it after the meditation. But if you will just bring up that last slide, what we have is a resource page to help you access more of this information where you can get the book, The Women Who Love Jesus. And I do encourage people, because a lot of this information about the life and teachings of Jesus comes from the Urantia book, part 4. And there are 2 papers you can see in the last bullet point, paper 150, which talks about the women, who they were, and how they were commissioned by Jesus to be his female apostles. And then paper 196, The Faith of Jesus, which talks about how Jesus developed that unswerving devotion to doing the heavenly will. And this is very, very important for us to understand now. I'm open to doing sessions with you on a personal level if I can help you with that. But let's go to the pictures of the women on the website, that second bullet point on the slide.
Sure, let me pull that up. So this is the website. If you click on that, I can also put the link in the chat for you if you need it. But this is Donna D'Angelo's website, Institute of Christ Consciousness. This is under her books. You can get to it from the front page. And she has here the pictures of the 12 women apostles. And you might be able to give us a little story about how you got actual pictures. You know, you said you've talked to us about how we can see personalities, we can see soul imprints. And so it's very interesting that we have these characteristics and we can know these women a little bit more in depth simply by having encountered them spiritually. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the pictures are not as important as reading the excerpts from the book of how they spoke to what Jesus evoked in them. When the book was in the process of being published, there was a suggestion to put some pictures of the book. So I went to the women and asked them to give me a general impression of who they were. It was very general. And then I shared those impressions with an artist by the name of Gary Tongi, who developed these pictures through his techniques of using artificial intelligence. But what is really more important to read are those beautiful excerpts of how they were transformed almost immediately by Jesus evoking that soul experience in them. And this is what he wants to do for each one of us as his children of this planet, and to help us as those people who will carry this message forward to our brothers and sisters, to hold that energetic spiritual charge of that soul opening, so people can begin to feel more of their intrinsic value. Because everyone is loved, everyone is valued as being a child of God, regardless of all of the trauma of the past and feelings of unworthiness, guilt, or shame. That just starts to melt away when you have this profound experience of being loved and validated by who you truly are. And Jesus does that for each one of his children, especially when you come to him with humility and sincerity. And so what I'd like to do, if there's just any other comments before we go into our meditation for a few minutes.
Does anyone have any questions? I have placed the link to this page in the website in the chat, and we are ready to move forward. If no one has questions, Sharon has let us know that she's going to watch the beginning because she missed the beginning and the recording, but she'll take a look at that. I don't see any questions, Donna, so it looks like we're ready for the meditation when you are.
So just take a few deep breaths and settle into where you're sitting. Jesus, thank you for what you did here on this world when you were here as our brother, to show us the ways of love, to demonstrate the love of our Creator for each individual, and for developing this core of mighty women who went out and changed the world. And now their story is being resurrected. And we ask you and these women to step into our energetic fields now. And just with your love, your compassion, to send forth that signal of what we need to apprehend straight into our hearts and souls. And I ask our sisters of our ancient past to radiate their social structure and foundation to resonate in the field around each individual listening to this meditation. Weave us together in what it was that you created here on this planet. Weave us together in the living gospel of Jesus, which forms that spiritual template for this planet for more positive change to occur, especially in our hearts and in our social institutions. We also call on the seraphim of our planet who weave these dynamics into human mind and bring us into an expanded awareness of what Jesus' living gospel of truth is here to teach us. And our sisters of the ancient past to provide us an expanded environment to live according to this gospel more and more each day. So we set this as the intention, and we ask to receive it to the degree we are able, and to help our human energy systems expand, expand, expand into the safety and security of our divine universe mother, holding us securely in her womb of consciousness. And let's just sit with this for a few minutes so you can experience this in your own unique way. Mm-hmm. In our exploration of human divine relationships, know that you have the right to open to what is available to you. These 12 women, in their collective embodiment of spirit, are here to help each one of us open to this greater dynamic of the social foundation that they created when they were here on the planet in human form. There is a memory circuit that they deposited here, and it can be brought forth into our modern day. And it is being done now through your ability and your receptivity to calibrate to their dynamic and to help you expand and anchor into what they developed here, so it can also be a part of your human experience and your soul growth. Human divine relationships are real, and they are important to cultivate now, because there is such great wisdom for us to glean that takes us beyond what our planet teaches us to the higher dimensional levels of where all true wisdom, truth, goodness, and beauty reside. And this is food for our souls. And so we can feed upon this. Continue to ask the women to support you, especially to anchor you more deeply to their dynamic, so you can find more interest and motivation to communicate with others soul to soul. And we ask our Universe Mother to expand the environment of the women, what they created during their human lives. And may it now calibrate into the growing dynamic of people who love and have faith in Jesus, even into those areas where the religious, theological dogma is open to a higher spiritual dynamic of who Jesus is and why he was here on the planet. May this ring more resoundingly into those levels where there is receptivity for his living gospel to now integrate into theology around him. Help your children to feel him more in their souls through the Spirit of truth. And amplify, amplify, amplify the women's energies so more people are able to appreciate the value of you, our Divine Mother, as holding the space for people to grow and learn and live Jesus' living gospel of truth and goodness. And may the angels of our planet weave this intention more tightly into those places of receptivity all around the globe, into the social institutions who are ready for a value change, to make the living gospel of Jesus a reality, a foundational structure in how the affairs of our planet are conducted. We claim this as the divine inheritance, as your sons and daughters, for our world to transform into these higher spiritual dynamics after so many years of deviating from the divine plans. We claim this for our brothers and sisters. We claim this for all life on the planet, to receive this massive infusion of what it means to live according to the principles that Jesus taught humanity. This has never been done before, and now it is time for us to take back our world and to take back what Jesus gave us: the purity, the simplicity, the honesty, the integrity, the power, and the potential of how this can change human society for us to reach our highest good. And I ask you to anchor this mother and father into each person listening to this meditation. May it serve as a springboard for greater spiritual motivation to live the gospel of Jesus and to have more direct access to the women. They can share and come close to each person. Feed them with what they need of this growing dynamic on the planet. And so let us all join together and see in our mind's eye the planet being held in the living gospel of Jesus. And there are light circuits coming from that and from the memory circuits of what the women left here on the planet, and they are weaving together to form a more cohesive fabric and foundation on the planet that will resonate great love and peace throughout the whole world. Jesus is the Prince of Peace, and it is now time for humanity to recognize who he truly is and what he was here to accomplish. And as these circuits weave together, may the resonance in the field produce a mighty sound, a mighty joyful song to bring people back to their divine inheritance, and that they may live more mightily and fully from this expanded space. And may Jesus come into each person listening to this call and be more fully anchored within that individual through the Spirit of truth, to feel his love, his universal heart, love for all humanity that takes us out of dissension, distortion, chaos, unworthiness, and to appreciate our human nature as it was divinely designed, and to help our spiritual potential grow and become more expressive. These are the desires of the human heart, and may these desires spring forth anew, because the living gospel of Jesus and the social foundation of the women who love Jesus is gaining strength and stature on the planet and expanding into areas where this is very, very, very much needed and sought. And may this new living foundation and fabric integrate into each person. May the power of the Creator within each person take this energy and apply it into the human mind and memory system where it will produce the most good. In the coming days, we ask for these energies to further deepen and integrate into the human mind and memory system. Lead the soul out into the green pastures of loving service to others. To teach people how to use the spiritual energy each person has access to, so that we are all growing and sharing together in this beautiful dynamic of Jesus' living gospel. It is time, the planet is ready, and it is we who make it a living reality. Thank you. Mother and Father, we thank you for what has been bestowed. We thank our Women's Evangelistic Corps for their faithful service during Jesus' lifetime and now in our modern day, helping us open to these expanded spiritual dynamics. We thank you, Jesus, for all that you did here on the planet and continue to do in the hearts of your children. We thank the angels of our planet for weaving us all together in this field of oneness, peace, harmony, cooperation, tolerance, love, fairness, justice, through the divine grace of our Creator. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And to all who have participated on this webcast and to all who listen to the recording, I thank you. And may you grow and express your soul purpose and lead you on the path to attain your own Christ consciousness. And we now conclude. So take a few moments to come back. Well, thank you all for being here. If anyone has anything they'd like to share in closing, would love to hear from you. I hope you found it helpful. And for those who will be listening, I hope you find this helpful to you too. And please reach out to me at the Institute of Christ Consciousness if you need some personal support to help you expand into these new dynamics. I see Bob has his hand up, so go ahead.
I'd just like to say I highly recommend reading the book that Donna's written on the 12 women who love Jesus. It's exceptionally well done, and the stories are awesome.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, they are. They were powerhouses. Oh, such good stuff. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Donna, so much for this wonderful presentation on the women who love Jesus, the living gospel of Jesus, an extension of the conversation that we've been having. And as a reminder, for those of you who want to reach out to Donna, she's extremely accessible at the Institute of Christ Consciousness. Her email, donna@institutechristconsciousness.org. Again, in the chat, for those of you who are with us, I placed the link to the page that has the book available and more information about the women. And thank you also for all of Donna's supporters and donors. You make this programming possible and the ministry that she does possible by your generous donations. If you want to support Donna's ministry, you can also do a donation through her website, or email her for the best possible way to make a donation. We are in the process of transitioning from one platform to another, and so she is taking donations via PayPal. But she can give you more information about that. Thank you again for being with us. Thank you, Donna. As always, you have one more thing to say. Please go ahead.
After the book was published, the women came back to me again and said that they wanted me to establish a new women's corps that was based on the ministry that they conducted. And we have now done that. And beautiful Kona is a member of this corps. And in our next call or our next webcast in April, we'll be talking about the modern day women's corps and the small men's corps that is now developing, that is working in the social institutions to bring these spiritual dynamics back to the planet. And so what we are doing is some mighty transformational work to support the restructuring of all of our planetary social institutions. We're working on personal healing. We're working on um, healing humanity's relationship with the planet, so we start to learn how to use the natural dynamics and intelligence of the planet in a very intentional and spiritually uplifted way. So this will be a interactive, because I'll have some of our ladies and gentlemen who are joining us in this mighty transformational work. And then, of course, if you're all interested in participating with us, this is an open invitation to join us on these transformational calls that are now beginning to sprout new seeds on the planet, in the planetary consciousness. Like these little shoots are now starting to come forth. And there is this mighty fabric of spiritual energy with the plans of correction for this world that is forming this mighty web of transformational change. So we'll be talking about how that is happening. And I'm thinking that we'll probably do that for both webcasts in April. So stay tuned for information about that. Thank you.
Thank you for that information, Donna. Yes, as a participant of the Women's Corps, these sessions that we do on a monthly basis have been so profound, so enriching. If you have enjoyed what we experienced today, then you won't want to miss the opportunity to participate in either the Women's Corps or the Men's Corps, because we go to this deep level with Donna. We hear from Spirit, we hear from Mother Spirit, Christ Michael, and as we are holding space for what's coming through Donna into the planet, we are also benefiting and having our person, our spirit upgraded, if you might say. And it's been profound for me and the other women and men involved. So thank you for that, Donna. I appreciate that. So we're about to close out our session one more time. We are with Donna D'Angelo, the Institute of Christ Consciousness. Here's her email. And we look forward to seeing you in our next webcast. This is Kona with Lighthouse News and Notes, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, everybody. Much love to you.